All right. Hope you enjoy. Hope you enjoyed those basketball shots there. Sorry about that. Brian had set up his podcast apparently, and I did not erase everything to that stream there. But regardless, Akeem and I are here, and I'm ready for basketball season. How about you, Akeem? After watching those plays.
I blame Brian. I mean, that is the longest intro I've ever seen. It just keeps going and going. So, Brian, we need to cut that down. We're gonna have a talk with Brian after this.
Yeah, I thought that might be like 30 minutes of highlights. So it's like 90 seconds, fortunately. But let's talk football, Akeem, because we're doing that on a Friday night, regional night, and I'm going to run through some scores real quick just to give people the updated. And the scores at the bottom now, you can see there the Central Indiana regional matchups, 6A, Westfield 20, Fishers 10, Brownsburg wins 47-23. New Pal had a battle. That game was 6-6 late in the game. New Pal wins it 20-6. Fort Wayne Dwenger beat Lebanon 39-27. Roncalli 31, Yorktown 27. Heritage Hills was at a battle too against Martinsville. That was a 15-13 game at halftime. They go on to win 35-19. Cascade, that last I saw was in the fourth quarter. So that's a fourth quarter score, 37-27. That game might be over by now. Gibson Southern beat Indian Creek. As you see, LaPel beats Lutheran and South Putnam beats Sheridan. And we're going to talk first to Akeem about his game, which was the LaPel Lutheran game. And Akeem, it was kind of a wrap. I mean, we were talking before the basketball highlights started, and I mean, it sounded like it just got off to a really rough start for Lutheran, and LaPel just took it to him. What happened in that game? People were talking about that score over at Decatur tonight.
Yeah, so to start the game, both teams punted, so it seemed like it was going to be a defensive battle, and then LaPel gets the ball back. Jack Miller starts the scoring with a touchdown run. So LaPel goes up 7-0 with 5:55 left, and then Lutheran gets the ball back, sack on third down, and then LaPel drives down. You get a touchdown pass from Devin Craig to Jackson Kripe, so that puts them up 14-0 with 9:41 left. And then they do a squib kick and get it back. And then on the very next play, Craig hits Braden Parsley for a 45-yard touchdown. So now LaPel's up 21-0. And then they do another squib kick and get it back. And then one play later, Craig hits Parsley again for 35 yards. That time, after that, LaPel's held to a field goal. So I believe it was 1 minute and 42 seconds worth of game time, 1 minute 37 seconds worth of game time, and LaPel scores 17 points to go up 24-0. And then from there, the game was pretty much over. It just wasn't very competitive after that. It seemed like on defense, LaPel had all the answers. Lutheran's normally, pretty well-oiled machine in terms of his passing attack. They just couldn't get anything going. A lot of balls batted down. No running game, just kind of they couldn't really get any push. A lot of trying to run up the middle that just wasn't successful. It was just a struggle defensively, and it was just kind of a complete inverse of the regional game from last year. So it was just a shocking kind of game there. But I mean, I've seen LaPel once before, and Devin Craig is just a magician. But Coach Pash, talking to him after the game, he's like, well, Craig did a lot from the pocket too. Like he didn't really need to create like magic like he has before. He was kind of just, maybe rolling out a little bit or dropping back and just throwing dimes all over the field. So, LaPel's receivers, they all are just so good at making contested catches and high pointing the ball. So just kind of a perfect storm of, great quarterback play, great receiving, great play design, and it was just kind of too much for Lutheran to kind of keep up with.
Yeah, I should mention that Lutheran beat LaPel last year 35-0, so sort of a reversal, like you said, Akeem, and really this LaPel team, it's kind of a magical ride that they're on. They're a team that they've never beat Lutheran before. So it's sort of a, they're a team that's never been undefeated before in their program history. So they're doing a lot of firsts, undefeated in the regular season, I should say. So they're doing a lot of firsts there for Coach Tim Miller, 13-0 now. And they will play Brownstown Central, also a very hungry program that is looking to get to Lucas Oil Stadium for Coach Reed May. They handled Linton Stockton tonight, 43-18. So that game was not close either. So really two teams that are on a roll right now. Just overall impressions, Akeem, of LaPel. I know you've seen them a couple times now. I would say too, like their defense, and I've tried to write this too, that because we give a lot of credit to the offense just generally in football, but their defense is outstanding. A lot of those guys are coming back next year too.
Yeah, like I said, they were really able to shut down the running game. They forced 2 turnovers, I believe. Isaiah Young had an interception that set up the final touchdown of the game. So they like I said, they seem to have all the answers to what Lutheran was trying to do. Like Lutheran tries to run the RPOs, and they kind of had a robber coming down and taking those plays away. And then again, they weren't able. Lutheran wasn't able to get any push on the line of scrimmage, so the run plays were just shut down. And they were playing without their starting running back, Hudson Mills. He had an ankle injury. He was on the sideline and dressed, but he did not play. I don't know if it was a close game, if he would have played. Like I said, he was dressed and it looked like he wanted to play, but he did not play. So Lutheran was at a slight disadvantage in that aspect. But again, they put 17 points on him so quickly that I don't want to make any excuses or anything like that, because LaPel was definitely the better team today. But yeah, just a shocking kind of not shocking, but maybe somewhat surprising score and outcome for LaPel.
Yeah, and that's a big loss. Obviously, Hudson Mills, he's a big part, been a big part of that Lutheran offense this year. He's had some huge games. I remember he had I think over a 250-yard game earlier this season. So that is a big loss, especially when you're talking about 2A teams, Akeem, where you may not have a whole lot of depth and a whole lot of players as well. But yeah, I mean, like you see, I know you talked to Coach Pash after the game from Lutheran. This group has had a really good run, and I know last year people kind of assumed they would make it to Lucas Oil, and then Jackson Willis had an injury and things happened, but just a really good another good season for Lutheran.
Definitely, yeah, yeah. Like I said, they managed the jump from 1A to 2A, and they definitely showed that they can, they deserve, or they can definitely hang with other 2A teams. So I wouldn't say that it played into the lopsided nature of this game. Just credit to LaPel. Again, they have a lot of playmakers and a really talented quarterback and a really good defense. So just maybe LaPel is the team of destiny right now.
Well, again, LaPel wins it tonight over Lutheran. What was that final again? It was 38-7?
Yes, it was.
38-7. LaPel wins it. They will play Brownstown in the semi-state next week for the right to go to Lucas Oil. Pretty cool stuff. Have you seen where that game is at, Akeem? Have you? I think I have it here. If you don't,
yeah, I don't have it.
Let's see here. Okay, that game's at LaPel. So LaPel gets another home game, or gets a home game in the semi-state. Pretty cool stuff. So, Akeem, thanks for popping on here, man.
No problem. Anytime.
All right. Well, we moved from Class 2A and a lopsided game that Akeem had. Greg Rakestraw coming on here now. You did not have a blowout game tonight. You had a good one at Center Grove tonight, but looked like you were on the way maybe to a blowout, and it didn't happen that way. But Greg, a huge win for Warren. I know a lot of Brownsburg people at the game I was at wondering how that game was going, and last I'd heard Warren was ahead, but and that's how it ended. They came back after having a big lead, lost it, and then won it. How'd that game go tonight?
24-21, Warren Central wins it. And so, Kyle, it is the third consecutive week that we have had a game that is a rematch of a regular season contest where the team that lost in the regular season won the postseason game. It is, however, the first time in 3 weeks that our game has not come down to the final play of the game. It was the third to last play of the game because the other two were knees that were taken by Warren Central in victory formation. And again, Kyle, you were right. It was 17-0 Warren midway through the second quarter. It was 21-17 Center Grove by the 4-minute mark of the third quarter. Warren then took the lead at 24-21, 5 seconds in to quarter number 4 on a tipped pass that Zechariah Wallace caught in the back of the end zone to make it 24-21. And then nobody scored again. The game was kind of there for the taking, frankly, for both sides. Center Grove did miss a 44-yard field goal that would have tied it. But frankly, both teams had a possession after that. And Center Grove kind of had a pick that gave him the ball back with 2 minutes left to go that really almost more acted like a punt for Warren Central. It was 3rd and long, and they threw the ball long, thinking if we get it, great, and if not, you kind of pin Center Grove further back in their territory. Trojans would get 1 first down, but couldn't convert another as the clock would tick off in the final minute with Warren taking knees. And Center Grove, this is an amazing stat, Kyle, about what Center Grove's program has become. This is the first time they lose before the semi-state round in 8 years. Wow. The last time they lost in the regional round was at Avon back in 2017.
Wow, that is crazy. I hadn't even thought about that, but that's a great stat. Keon Thomas had a huge game. The stats that I saw coming from the game tonight, I had him with, or I didn't have him, but I have this passed along that he had 241. So anywhere in that vicinity is impressive. Obviously, he had 1 touchdown and on 25 carries. So I was very impressed. Even the first game of the year, I covered this game actually when they played in week 1, and they only scored 6 points, but he was very impressive in that game. He has been throughout the season, and sounds like tonight he was another difference maker for Warren Central tonight.
Yeah, he was absolutely tremendous. I had him with 243. I also had him with 67 yards receiving, so 300 yards of total offense. 74-yard touchdown run was the key scamper. And his credit, he kind of played hurt late in that game. He got right at the end of the third quarter. He kind of got tangled up on a play and clearly looked like kind of turned or rolled his ankle and just kind of kept battling through. So he didn't have that breakaway speed in the fourth quarter, but frankly, that's not what they needed. They needed 3 and 4 yards a pop, and that's what he was doing. He kind of set the tone with a 40-yard pass, just on kind of a flare out, out into the flat on the opening drive that led to a field goal for them. And again, Keon missed a couple of games in the middle of the season. He did not play in the shootout loss to Lawrence North. He did not play when they kind of got drubbed by Carmel. But as you know, Warren has the benefit of geography in terms of everybody gets the bye in 6A, have a relatively easy, sectional with Perry Meridian and Southport. So frankly, he didn't have a heavy workload last 2 weeks. He was able to kind of rest up and get healthy. And tonight, he had the best individual performance kind of the non-quarterback division in terms of yards. Maybe only Zay Moore against LN back in week 7 would be reminiscent of the game that Thomas had tonight to get Warren Central back to the semi-state round.
I know Coach Moore not making excuses. That was a beat-up team Center Grove had for a lot of the season, really.
Yep.
And they'll have a lot of guys back next year, but a lot of good seniors too on this team. Looking at Warren, they've got so many. I've been impressed. Looking at their roster, man, they're going to have a lot back next year. And you could say and like you said, they do have a relatively easy route compared to some others. So you're kind of playing for this. Probably thinking ahead to this regional for several weeks. But also, man, they're this is a good stepping stone for them with a lot of players coming back next year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jeremy Finch is a senior, but they are young at most every other position. Sean Fox is a junior. McDonald, who is back from injury on the defensive line, was a junior. And frankly, that was a big part of the defensive capabilities of Warren tonight. They were getting pressure on Oscar Sloan with 3. They were getting pressure with 3, and they were dropping 8 in coverage that allowed them to do what they were able to do. There were 6 combined interceptions in this game, 2 thrown by Sloan, 4 thrown by Jack Quillen, who is also a sophomore. This was a game where the skill position players going in both directions were very young, but good on Warren Central. There is a tendency when you've got so many sophomores and juniors just to say, hey, you know what, next year will be our year. Well, maybe this year is their year too, because they're one of the 4 teams that are still left playing in 6A football.
And a cool kind of backstory, JT Whitaker, formerly coach at Brownsburg, on staff there, now going back to play at Brownsburg in the semi-state. So a lot of familiarity there. Greg, thanks for popping on here and jumping on and talking that. I want to talk about that game. That would sound like a great one, and it definitely turned out to be.
Absolutely, and clearly the toughest thing to do in this postseason is beat a team twice, because not many teams have done it so far this year.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming on.
You got it, Kyle.
And thanks to Greg Rakestraw for popping on. And now we're going to talk a little bit about 4A football game. Rob Brown was up doing radio for the Roncalli Yorktown game tonight. And Rob, you there? I'm going to take Rob off there real quick. I saw him on there, but having a little bit of trouble there. Maybe he's just doing radio. I don't know. Is he just doing radio for the post-game show too? We'll have to no video. We'll get him back on here shortly. But Roncalli did win that game. Roncalli won over Yorktown 31-27. So that looked like a really good game. Thought it might be coming into the into the night. It looked like a kind of not necessarily a toss-up. Thought Roncalli probably favored by a little bit. Yorktown coming off a very impressive win last week over Pendleton Heights, and Roncalli led, it looked like, most of the way there. And I'm going to get Rob back on here. I see him popping into the green room as it is, and there he is. Hello, Rob.
Hey, Kyle, I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything.
I can hear you. Are you able to hear me now by chance, or? Well, we're going to bring, hopefully Rob can join us again. I'm going to try to get Rich Torres in and talk about Rich wasn't even ready, but I'm going to
I know. Hold on.
He was writing something down, probably something important, but
I was
Rich,
just writing a love note to you, Kyle. That's all.
Rich had a good game tonight as well. Westfield wins it, Class 6A regional, 20-10, and looked like Westfield had the lead most of the night. Although I didn't see the score early, I think it was 6-3 or something in that range. How did your game come out, Rich? What was sort of the gameplay, and how did Westfield get it done tonight?
Well, 3 straight regional titles for the Westfield Shamrocks. I mean, they're rolling. They are a dynasty, so to speak. You know, they're pretty prolific in the playoffs, and they do it with 3 phases every time: special teams, defense, and offense. And all 3 of them showed up tonight. Obviously, you said 6-3, and that's what it was. It was a field goal battle early on. Diego Herrera had a 41-yard field goal and a 25-yarder for Westfield, getting that 6-3 lead. And then Micah Hillen hit a 24-yarder for Fishers, so that made it tied 3-3 before Diego put him up ahead. But the truly defining moment was by the defense, and actually that's what I was writing down. You know, you kind of caught me here. I was looking at my notes, but it was shortly before halftime, and Fishers had the ball. They were charging down. They started their own 20. They got deep into Westfield territory, and it was 1st and 10 at the 10. So 1st and goal, man. And Westfield's defense showed up. 2 sacks, 1 tackle for no gain. Zane Newman had 2 sacks in the game, but he had 1 sack to kind of set that pace and sent him back 10 yards. And then Wade Washoe came in and got another sack for a -8 yards in that same little sequence. And eventually Fishers turned that ball over on downs at the 28 of Westfield. So they had an opportunity there, trailing in the game, to kind of come through and try to tie it, because they were at that point, actually not tie it, but, take a nice little lead. So that defense tonight for Westfield, they bent, but they never broke kind of situation, and that's what you kind of expect from them. And they really kind of showed it there, because after that turnover on downs, you flip it, 2-minute drill, and Cooper Melvin one of the two-headed monster at quarterback for Westfield was pretty efficient tonight, and he had 3 straight runs. First one 44 yards, the next one 6 yards, the next one 21 yards, 71 total yards on 3 straight carries in that 2-minute drill. Put him in a situation where Baylor Connor ran in for a 1-yard touchdown, 13-3 lead at halftime. And again, that defense kind of showed up, and so did Fisher's actually, because it was a scoreless third quarter until the fourth, when Aiden Grabowski went beast mode for a 15-yard run, breaking about 4 tackles on a QB keeper. And at that point, it was pretty much out of reach. Fisher's wasn't able to really generate much offensively, beyond between the 20s, and Westfield just kind of held on and kept it going. So I mean, they came in this week with the mantra of confidence, refocus, and character. And I think they showed all 3 tonight. Once again, knocking off Hamilton Southeastern School for the 3rd straight year. Fisher's back-to-back in an HSC 3 years ago. So Westfield's just proven, that no matter what the record is, going into the postseason, they're a tough out. And, last week I think Carmel had their opportunity, and Westfield stood their ground and was able to come through again. And here we are again. They're back in the Final Four.
Rich, can you hold on a second? Are you able to? I'm going to try to bring Rob in one more time.
Well, Kyle, I'm in a. I got you now. I'm in a parking lot in Fortville with a giant pink elephant in it. So, Kyle, it's been a disorienting night all the way around. But I've regrouped.
Bring the pink elephant on. Is he?
He's across. He's right outside my windshield. He's got the martini glass and the big sunglasses. It was an interesting night up here at Yorktown as I worked my way back to the south side. The Royals win of Roncalli wins regional number 14 tonight. And it was a tight game, 31-27, the final. A little bit of a cosmetic score at the end of the game for Yorktown. Got a touchdown with about 22 seconds to go, and then Roncalli smothered an onside kick and had one kneel down to end the game. But the run game was the key tonight. Was the real story, I should say, because both teams coming in had been running the ball very effectively. Roncalli, in the 3 sectional wins, have been averaging about 270 yards on the ground. And then you had Yorktown in the win last week at Pendleton. Nate Luzader ran for 252, a career high. And so both teams were looking to do that, to which team could run the ball and which team could stop the run. And Roncalli was able to duplicate that tonight, ran for 242 as a team, and held Luzader under 40 tonight, and held Pendleton to, I think, 72 as a team. And Zach Dozier for Roncalli was the first player, any opponent. Pendleton, I'm doing this without notes now. Yorktown was allowing 91 yards per game rushing defense, and Roncalli ran for 242 tonight. And Zach Dozier of Roncalli was the first Yorktown opponent to run for 100 yards all season.
Wow.
Dozier had 114, and his teammate Alex Jarvis ran for 84, and the quarterback Colin Ash had 56. So it really was the Roncalli running game, as has been the story this whole postseason. The Roncalli running game that kind of fueled the attack. Roncalli scored on all 4 of its first half possessions, 3 touchdowns and a field goal, and only scored 1 touchdown in the second half, but that was enough to kind of keep Yorktown at arm's length and really made them uncomfortable, made them throw it more than they liked to or wanted to. Again, that was enough to keep Yorktown at arm's length. And I think there too was, and we talked about it in the pregame show,
you started to see Yorktown maybe run out of gas a little bit in the fourth quarter because Yorktown plays, other than their quarterback, Sam Tokar, who I know you know this. He's a Division I baseball prospect, committed to IU to play baseball as a junior pitcher. Of their top 6 or 7 players, Tokar's the only one of them that doesn't start both ways.
Oh, wow.
And you get to the 4A level, that's awfully difficult to play 48 minutes, especially in a physical game like tonight. That really takes its toll when you've got not just any kids, but key kids that you're counting on to handle the ball on offense and then make critical tackles and stops on defense, and to do that for 48 minutes in a physical game, especially when the other team is bringing 11 fresh guys on and every possession change. I think that played a factor down the stretch.
And that'll set up, Rob, a huge game next week. Heritage Hills comes to Roncalli, so get your tickets, because Heritage Hills will bring a lot of folks, and Roncalli will as well. But that's going to be an awesome game.
Well, and Kyle, the two programs have only played one other time, and that was in 2000. Roncalli was the defending 3A champs in 99. Roncalli ran the table, went 15-0, and won the 3A state title. And Heritage Hills came up to Roncalli and played the semi-state on a Saturday, which is a possibility next weekend as well.
I was going to say, some of these games we could see 1 or 2 Saturday games possibly.
Right. So that's possible. But Roncalli lost 27-0 in that semi-state, one of only 4 times. Roncalli's played, I'm going to do this from memory, somewhere in the 165 postseason games in school history, have only been shut out 4 times.
Wow. And
that's one of them. A gentleman by the name of Jay Cutler threw 4 touchdown passes that day. Also had 2 interceptions in the game. And then Heritage Hills went on to win the 3A state title the following week. So that's the only time that the two programs have ever met. And that was 25 years ago this weekend.
Awesome. Well, that'll give me something to write about.
Yeah. So the rematch coming next week.
And I will say, Martinsville, surprisingly, that was only a 2-point game at halftime tonight.
We checked
down there.
We were keeping an eye on that score, obviously, because that was going to be the opponent next week for whoever won up at Yorktown tonight, and they were running a half an hour behind us, so that game wasn't going to be final when our game concluded. But yeah, we saw that score as well, and we're surprised that it was a 15-13 game at halftime. And I didn't see the final, but I know Heritage Hills pulled away.
Yeah, it was 35-19. Heritage Hills ended up winning.
Okay. That might be a scenario where extra bleachers need to be brought in.
I would say that'd be a good call.
Put on the track at the if you know the setup at Roncalli Stadium, the east end zone where the woods are, there might be some extra bleachers on the track there at the east end to accommodate the crowd.
Yeah, that would be that's going to be an awesome game and atmosphere. I have another final score here, and I'll hopefully add it to the bottom line. But Cascade beat Lawrenceburg 37-33. That was a late score coming in because they started at 8 p.m. So Cascade wins, and Cascade will now play in the semi-state. So another cool story, and they'll be playing Gibson Southern. So potentially that could be a Saturday game at Cascade. So Gibson Southern will bring a lot of people too. So a lot of people coming this way next week from that part of the state.
I've seen that Cascade team play in person each of the last 2 years, and I really like they're a fun team to watch.
Mm-hmm. They're
a really fun team to watch.
Yes, they are. Well, Rob, thanks for how was radio tonight? Being on the radio again.
It's I would say it's like riding a bike, but considering when I was on vacation last week, I wrecked a bike. I probably analogy I should use. So I'll just say that it was fun to be back back in the familiar digs and hear from a lot of old listeners, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I'll keep the bike. Considering I'm looking at scars on my hand from last weekend, I'm going to keep my bike analogies to myself.
Yeah, that doesn't sound promising there, but well, enjoy the. Are you so you're still up at Yorktown now?
No, I'm in a parking lot in Fortville. I'm making my way out from Yorktown, but
okay.
I'm not home yet.
You're not home yet.
I'll get there eventually.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you doing this, man. Thanks for popping on.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Rob.
See ya.
All right, that was Rob Brown in the Pink Elephant from Fortville. We never know what
that, man. I mean, bike wrecks and pink elephants. I mean, that's
I mean,
I'm just gonna sign off.
it's you never know what you're gonna get with these shows. We started with you probably missed the beginning. We started with basketball highlights and worked our way up, I would say. I'm going to add this score. Cascade 37-33. What a wild one that must have been tonight down at Lawrenceburg. Huge win for that Cascade program, and they move on to play Gibson Southern in the semi-state next week. That's going to be an awesome game too. So we got some really great games on the docket for next week. But finishing up your thought, Rich, on your game tonight, it looked like, I was kind of going through the stats here just a little bit. I know from talking to Gage Sturgill the other day, they were kind of, we didn't talk about this, publicly, but, he was saying that he thought the Westfield's game plan was probably going to be to take away the deep pass and try to make Fishers run the ball, and move the ball, not give up the big play, maybe play a little bit more of a conservative style a little bit where you're, because you don't want to give up big plays, and that's what Fishers can do to you. They have speed, and they're able to hit the big play. Is that kind of how it played out in your opinion? Were they giving up the run a little bit and trying to keep them from throwing deep?
Yeah, for the most part. Obviously, you mentioned Gage. I mean, he was 11 for 23. But they really took away that deep threat. Like I said, they kind of bent but didn't break. They would give up some big runs here and there. But on third down, their efficiency was fantastic. They really hemmed it in at that point. Really both sides. I mean, to be honest with you, it was like you didn't really have a lot of passing. I mean, you had attempts, but there weren't big time yardage plays. I mean, both quarterbacks for Westfield threw for 37 yards each, but they combined for 174 rushing. So I think both teams really kind of attacked that run and took away the pass, which was interesting because, like I said, last week Aiden was more of that runner and Cooper was more of the pass heavy, and this week they almost looked identical. Their passing attempts were really close. There were quite a few. I mean, Aiden had one that just missed a target deep down for probably like a 40-yard gain, and Cooper, same deal. Like he had a couple of deep shots that if they would have pulled them in, then who knows, but yeah, they relied on the run game, both sides. And it was just those big running plays for Westfield. I mean, they got the big chunk yardage, like I mentioned with Cooper, getting the huge runs 3 in a row during a 2-minute drill. It really did. It seemed like you could see, since they played during the regular season, it was 14-7. It was a tight game. And you could kind of tell that they were replicating that early, but Westfield just found a way to kind of push it forward. And really it was that momentum from their defense, just feeding off of that. And then in that 2-minute drill, it was just execution. It is interesting because, obviously Westfield, they were happy, they were pretty excited about winning this regional, but I think because they've done it so much now, it's almost an expectation, like a standard of excellence that they're looking for. I kind of equate it to like a New Pal, like New Pal, they just expect it. They expect to get to state. They expect to challenge for that title every year, even when people say they're not able to. And I think Westfield, in a way, kind of took that chip and kind of put it on their shoulder this year, reaching the state finals, challenging Brownsburg the way they did, And oddly enough, they have a 2-quarterback system, much like Brownsburg had last year.
I was actually going to mention that. It's kind of strange how that, it's the other side now, and they've gone kind of like Brownsburg did. I mean, I kind of expected last year Brownsburg maybe pick one, but it ended up they needed both, and I think probably the same for Westfield is like, hey, we can use both these guys. They both give us something a little bit different, and why not use them both? And it's working.
It's kind of like imitation is flattery, so to speak. So I mean, you see it work across the sideline, and you lose in a big game that way. I mean, why not? And it really has worked in the chemistry between those two guys. I don't know if you saw the post game video I put up, but they're just kind of they're there. There's no ego there. Nobody's trying to best one another. When their number is called, they go in and they try to execute as well as they can and win the game for the team. It's same thing with like the running a game. I mean, obviously Deacon King, he had a high ankle sprain. He suffered against Avon. He's been out for a few weeks. Last week he played defense. He was playing starting safety against Carmel. This week he actually carried the ball. So he's starting to kind of get his mojo back, so to speak, on offense. So he might be a factor here next week as far as the running game. So you may see more of a 4-prong attack rushing from Westfield next week against Fort Wayne Carroll, and moving forward if they happen to win. So yeah, I mean, they're kind of getting healthy and they're getting more and more confident, which I think they already had that, but they just needed that belief that, hey, we can do this, we can win these games. And so far so good. And it is funny because having to go through this route, having to beat these Hamilton County teams, these conference teams again, and now they see Fort Wayne Carroll. First time they've seen them in the postseason since 2021, and oddly enough, they got to go back up there. So that's we're talking about teams coming here; they actually have to go north. So, last time they played them, they won 37-14, and that was in 2021. So I'm sure they're looking for a replication of that. And with this defense, I feel like even when the offense is struggling, which they showed last week and this week, that defense just bides them time. They either get a big play, they get a big stop. They had 2 turnover on downs against Fishers tonight, forced 3 punts, kept them between the 20s, for the most part. So it's that defense is pretty fierce, and, like I mentioned, Zane Newman, I talked to him a little bit after the game, and he just talked about that attitude, that mentality, going in there, disrupting, pressuring the quarterback. So like you mentioned, taking away that passing avenue, and you could see it. You could see it repeatedly every time they were on the field. So, if you can find a way to beat that defense, then you can find a way to maybe beat the Shamrocks. But again, 2 unbelievably good and friendly with each other quarterbacks that just want to win. They just want to stay title, man. And I'm guessing they're probably going to want to break this trend they have where they get to the semi-state and then they lose. So if you go by that, then I mean, history doesn't favor Shamrocks, but hey, why not? Buck history. Let's do something new and let's get back to state. Maybe a rematch. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think we're kind of probably inching our way towards that. Obviously just one step away now for both those teams, and I think I added there the Cascade score at the bottom, hopefully, so people can see that. But yeah, I think we're edging towards that. We're seeing those teams kind of rise to the top again, and Warren and Carroll will have something to say about that. But I think it'd probably be an upset in either case for us not to have a rematch at this point. So we'll see. I mean, things play out, and we never know. There's games that happen we never expect to happen, but Carroll will be that'll be a good challenge for Westfield, especially having to go on the road. It's always a little bit different, especially when it's that far away. So a little bit of a trip for Westfield, but yeah, should be a good game, and I think I'd give Westfield a good chance to win that. But Rich, appreciate you coming on and having to you had a halftime in your segment, but I had to get Rob's still in the parking lot, so I was trying to get him done and out of here. So appreciate you.
Trust me. No problem, man. Trust me. I've written many stories in Fortville in a parking lot somewhere. So I empathize with them. But good. One quick note. Good job, Cascade. I know I was able to cover them a few weeks ago, And, their big thing was just winning sectional. And now look at them, so it's good for them. Hopefully they keep it going. And yeah, you're right. We're inching towards a rematch, and I'd love to see it, but I wouldn't put anything past Warren Central. A little full circle there for Coach Hart again. And yeah, they're going on the road to Fort Wayne Carroll. Let's see how that turns out. But my money's on the Shamrocks too. I think that they have the grit and the confidence and the talent to pull this off. So
they're trending in the right direction at the right time. That's for sure. So
yes, sir.
Thanks, Rich. I know you got some work to do here, and appreciate you coming on and doing it.
No problem, man. Have a good one.
All right, man. We'll see you. Well, thanks to Rich Torres for popping on here. That was Westfield again winning tonight. They will play Fort Wayne Carroll next week. Carroll beat Penn tonight 41-30. So that Penn's first loss of the season, actually, in that game. So big win for Carroll. Carroll's a good, they're a team that has really good offense. Van Pelt, their receiver, really good player. Carroll's a team that also plays some, I like what they've done with their schedule. They're playing some Indianapolis area teams at the beginning of their season. They've played Center Grove. They've played Warren Central, so they're starting to add some teams that played HSE these last few years. So, they're adding some teams to their schedule. I think it's beneficial for teams like Crown Point, Carroll, that, you don't have a lot of 6A teams in your own area. So you should try to get down here and play some teams that I think it's only going to make you better. So they lost both those games earlier this year to HSE and Center Grove this season, but those are competitive games for them. And I think, who knows, probably helped them tonight's game against Penn and just their program in general. So, again, Carroll they will host Westfield next week in the semi-state. That'll be the North game in 6A. Warren Central, I'm going to go through all the scores here again, but Warren Central beat Center Grove 24-21. Brownsburg beat Decatur Central 47-23. So now Warren will play at Brownsburg in the South semi-state in 6A. In 5A, New Powell beats East Central. That game again, it was 6-6 late in the game, or into the second half anyway. And New Powell ends up winning 20-6 over East Central. Bloomington South destroyed Floyd Central 55-7. So it'll be New Powell at home against Bloomington South in the 5A semi-state locally. In 4A, South Bend St. Joe beat Hobart 10-7. And Fort Wayne Dwenger beat Lebanon 39-27. So those will be that in North Semi-State. South Bend St. Joe will be at Dwenger. In the South, as we mentioned with Rob, Roncalli beat Yorktown 31-27. Heritage Hills beat Martinsville 35-19. So you'll have Heritage Hills going to Roncalli in the South 4A semi-state. And I was going to mention this too, in 3A, Cascade did beat Lawrenceburg 37-33. And Indian Creek went on the road to Gibson Southern, lost 42-14. But in that game, Zach Foster was injured for Gibson Southern. Got a message from Kyle Soakland, who, he had posted earlier that he was taken off the field on a board, and sounded like a pretty serious injury situation. Foster, one of the best players in the state, best quarterbacks around. So, obviously hoping the best for him, and hope that's not, it sounds definitely very serious, but hopefully he's going to be okay coming out of that tonight. That's just too bad of a deal for him and Gibson Southern, but they do move on. And I know, they're obviously going to get themselves prepared to play a game next week when they go to Cascade. I don't know if all these games will be played on Friday or not. Kind of depends on the, what the schools decide to do. Sounds like it was Foster had a leg injury, so that was what ended up happening there. It sounds like pretty serious leg injury. So sad for him. I hate, obviously that's never something you want to see, and happens occasionally. And hopefully that young man can get better. But yeah. So anyway, Gibson Southern wins, and they will play at Cascade either Friday or Saturday. We should know on these games relatively quickly, I would assume. In the South, in 2A, LaPel beat Lutheran 38-7. Brownstown Central beat Linton 43-18. So LaPel will host Brownstown Central in the semi-state in 2A. South Putnam beat Sheridan 26-6, and Milan upset Providence. So you have Milan playing South Putnam at home. So Milan may have a chance to make it to state in 1A. So that should be a very well attended, I would think, game 2 between South Putnam and Milan. That's a pretty cool matchup there as well. In my game, I want to talk about my game too. Brownsburg beat Decatur Central tonight, 47-23, and really Brownsburg got off to a great start and helped by Decatur Central, which turned the ball over on the first play of the game. 8 seconds into the game, Brownsburg had the ball after kicking off. So they ended up scoring 2 plays later. A.J. Job scored on a run, and then Brownsburg got off to a 14-0 lead. And then Decatur did fight back from there. It kind of looked like it was really headed to a bad place for Decatur after the first maybe 3-4 minutes. But they did respond. They scored on they got a touchdown there to make it 14-8. Scored on a let's see here. It was a Casimir Hicks pass from Bo Poston, 9-yard pass, but good drive there. They converted a 4th down, scored, got the 2-point conversion, made it 14-8. Brownsburg came right back and scored again to make it 20-8. And then Decatur came right back at them and scored again. Poston on a 2-yard run made it 20-15. So you're kind of thinking at that point, well, if Decatur can get a stop here at some point, maybe they got a chance to, make this a real game into the second half and take the lead potentially. But tried an onside kick, couldn't get it. Brownsburg scored again before halftime, made it 26-15. Decatur moved the ball down the field again. They kind of ran out of time. It was getting late, under a minute, threw an interception, and then it was 26-15 going into halftime. Brownsburg scored again to start the second half, and that it was kind of over at that point. You kind of could feel the deflation a little bit. It got to be 40-15, and then Braylon Morris scored on a 72-yard run to make it 40-23 late in the third, and still sort of a chance there. But Brownsburg ended up scoring again in the fourth quarter, 47-23. Kyle Enright, the Decatur Central coach, talked after the game about Poston apparently broke his thumb. I think it was later in the first half there, right towards the end of the first half. Was trying to play, but obviously that's not ideal situation with his thumb. So Morris played some at quarterback, and Poston did too, but his last game ends. And really that's senior class for Decatur. Very good class, great leadership. Just a class. They won a state title last year in 5A, and had to move up to 6A this year because of success factor, but and they'll have to play again in 6A next year. That'll be tough for Decatur, losing all these seniors. But I think really a program that's on really solid footing now under Kyle Enright, and they've and Justin Dixon before him, and they've really kind of built something special there at Decatur. And they're playing up in class tonight. Not easy against the best team, the number 1 ranked team in the state tonight. But thought they played pretty well. I was really impressed. Brownsburg, they can just flat out run the ball. The offensive line very good. I had Job with over 100 yards. What did I have him for? 149. That might even be short a little bit. But Oscar Fry, I thought, played really well also. 16 for 20 passing, 133 yards. Very efficient. And I thought even able to make some plays with his feet. He was able to feel the pressure, get out. He picked up a big 4th and 8 with a 15-yard run in the second half. That was kind of at a key point where they needed to get that to keep the ball away from Decatur. So I just thought he played really well tonight. The offensive line was outstanding. And like I said, so all this kind of setting up for a big game against Warren next week. And then, if you can win that, you're back at Lucas Oil, potentially playing Westfield again. So, after the whole season again, we could end up with a rematch in 6A. So good stuff tonight. A lot of good games. Appreciate all the everybody for joining us here and the guests that we had tonight. Have a lot more coverage throughout the weekend. Tonight, I've still got to write my story, so I need to get to it here. But we'll have a lot more on Sunday with our Sunday morning with our snap judgments and what we learned on Monday morning, and then everything else. I should also mention Miles McLaughlin broke the single season national rushing record tonight. He had 372 yards tonight in that Knox win. It was 28-21 over Angola in Class 3A. So Knox still playing. He's closing in. He, could potentially break that all-time rushing record of Derrick Henry, the national record for a career. So I have to do the math on that, see how close he is to that. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. Also for Miles McLaughlin, that Knox team tonight. So again, appreciate you joining us here. Like I said, we'll have plenty of coverage throughout the weekend at IndyStar.com, and then into next week also with the semi-state. Look at the semi-state teams and what we'll have coming up in those matchups as well. So appreciate you joining us here, and we will talk to you soon.